Hello everyone, my name is Eugenie Anadali. Today I'm going to present about 5 years after Stanford scandal, many victims penniless. Robert Allen Stanford is an American convicted financial fraudster, former financier, and also a sponsor of professional sports. He is a chairman of Stanford Financial Group of Companies. He is currently serving a 110 years federal prison sentence, which convicted in 2012 of charge that his investment company was a massive Ponzi scheme and frauds. Stanford contributed millions of dollars to politicians involved Antigua and the United States, amongst other countries. Stanford operated massive Ponzi scheme, misappropriating billions of investor money and falsifying the Stanford International Bank record to hide their fraud. The victim of 7 billion Ponzi scheme involved 30,000 of investors from the whole country. One of his clients has decided not to invest in Stanford Empire after he found allegations of money laundering dating back to a 1996 lawsuit settled out of court. The SEC charged Stanford with massive ongoing fraud centered on an $8 billion investment scheme. Stanford used the British royal family to convince investors that he was a legit businessman with impeccable credentials. His company used for royal in its glossy publicity, brochures, magazine, and website to emphasize tycoon respectability. Stanford used lucrative and controversial bonus scheme for signing up investors in order to motivate staff while sales teams were trained to deflect awkward questions. The clients were taught that their money went into fixed income bonds, hedge funds, stock, and precious metal. Stanford trial date was set for January 2011. The district judge deemed that Stanford's anti-anxiety drug addiction impaired his judgment and therefore made him unfit to stand trial. Stanford was incarcerated at the Federal Detention Center, Houston. In February 2011, Stanford issued a counterclaim of $7.2 billion of damage against the FBI and the SEC in May. By November 2011, Stanford was being held at the Federal Medical Center at the Federal Correctional Complex, Butner in Butner, North Carolina. His attorney claimed that Stanford was unfit to stand trial due to amnesia resulting from his sustained injuries. On December 2011, he was found competent to stand trial by U.S. District Judge David Hittner. The trial began on January 2012 at the Houston Federal Courthouse. On March, after 3 hours of deliberation, the jury convicted him of masterminding a Ponzi scheme. Prosecutors recommend 230 years, the maximum according to sentencing guidelines, for his conviction on 13 counts of conspiracy, wire and mail fraud, obstruction, and money laundering. Mr. Davis, who is his chief financial officer, testified that the Stanford business empire was a fraud, with bribes paid to Antiguan regulators and schemed to hide operations from federal investigators. Stanford will remain in the Federal Detention Center in Houston for the next month or two until the Federal Bureau of Prisons decide where to assign him. Stanford was sentenced to 110 years in prison on 14 June 2012. That's all from me. Thank you.